Hi dear friends, in this video we will talk about IELTS trends for the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. But before you start watching this video, make sure that you have subscribed to this channel to get more information about IELTS and general English. So let's start from listening. Why? Because listening is the section from which you will start on your exam. Listening section hasn't changed a lot, but there were some minor changes that had happened before the pandemic started. What happened? They removed example part from the listening section. This was a bit not so good because during the example part of listening, students look further to further questions in section 2, section 3 and section 4. But now we don't have this opportunity. We have limited time and we don't know when section 1 starts. It starts immediately. Before we knew that it started after the example, but now we don't see when it starts. Then they changed sections into parts. Now they are not called section 1, section 2, section 3, 4. They are called part 1, part 2, part 3 and part 4. I don't think that it's a big problem for you, but just you have to keep it in your mind. The next thing that I want to mention about listening, it's of course your favorite multiple choice questions. They are still popular and of course they will be because they are the most difficult part of IELTS. Nowadays, not only multiple choice questions with 3 answers, but also with 5 answers from which you will choose 2 of them. And I wanted to mention one point about multiple choice questions is that now you can meet them in your part 1 and part 4. Actually, it happened in the past as well, but now it can happen quite often because IELTS today likes to surprise us.
Surprise!
In section 1, of course, or in part 1, of course, it's not so difficult. Sometimes I confuse section and part because I'm still not used to part 1. Well, in part 1, it's not so difficult, but in part 4, yes, it can be a bit difficult because just one person is speaking in part 4 and sometimes it's a bit difficult to detect when he or she is saying the correct answer. While in section 3, mostly 2 or 3 people are talking, and according to your questions, you can know whose answer should come here. The next point about listening is that box exercises are quite popular nowadays. Box exercises are like matching the box. They can give you several items, like the names of car brands or maybe the names of dishes and so on, and you should match the information to each of this item. You should take the information from the box and this information in the box is usually paraphrased. The next part is reading. Reading questions, they don't change a lot, but what changes, they prefer to give some difficult types of questions, more of course, and one of them is fill in the gaps with box. What is it? What's the difference from ordinary fill in the gaps? In ordinary fill in the gaps, we just find the location of the question and we take the word from the text, from the passage, and we just fill the gap with this word. But now we don't fill the gap with this word, we just take this word and we search for its paraphrased form in the box. It even can change its form, it even can be a completely different word. So you should be ready with these types of exercises. And of course the exercises like matching statement, matching information, true false not given, they are very common in reading. You should just practice them a lot. Let's go to writing part, writing task 2 topics. Nowadays, of course, writing task 2 topics, they usually were about modern tendencies. So they asked us about the tendencies of this life, what people do, what they don't do, what are some advantages, disadvantages, and so on. But nowadays it's mostly about comparison, and they give a lot of questions about the comparison of past and future, or past and present. the present time and the future. You have to have a strong analytical skills to be able to compare those times. And of course, while comparing them, you should use appropriate tenses. Don't forget, it's very important. And sometimes many students confuse. For example, maybe the topic wants us to discuss the present and the future, and some students, they become confused. They start to compare the past and the present. So you should be very, very careful in these topics. Then they like to ask nowadays the questions like close to the comparison of past and present. It's mostly about traditions, whether we should preserve traditions, old buildings, our heritage, and the questions like this. The next type of question, which is also very popular, it's about modern tendencies as usual, but it's about celebrities. Nowadays, as you know, celebrities earn a lot via their accounts on social media. So sometimes they ask these questions about celebrities, celebrity endorsements, and so on. Next, you should be ready to the questions about environmental issues, greenhouse effect, environmental pollution, because as you know, this topic is becoming more and more popular nowadays. It's about Tesla cars and so on. And I don't say that the questions about health, robotics, technology, employment, education will be totally ignored. No, they will not be totally ignored, but the topics that I've mentioned before, they are mostly popular today. Let's go to writing task 1. Writing task 1, actually the types of writing task 1 haven't changed. You can be calm about this. The types haven't changed, but sometimes unexpectedly they can give you a completely new type of writing task 1. So it can be, for example, we've seen the comparison of two bridges. Two bridges were constructed in different times, or the bridge was in the past, and how the bridge looks right now, and you should compare these two bridges. It's mostly about map. It looks like this type of question, map writing task 1. The other type of writing task 1 questions was about writing task 1 topic was about stones. They showed 5 or 6 stones, ancient stones, and students should have written about the comparison of these stones. It's very important to keep in mind that you should compare all the time in writing task 1, because even if you are given this kind of strange writing task 1, keep in mind that you should compare something. And speaking topics have actually changed. There are new topics. Some of them, they are still the same, but most of them have changed. That you should remember about part 1 in speaking is that you should talk about your hometown, occupation, studies. These questions are always on your speaking exam. They are the first questions. And part 2 questions, they are nowadays mostly about person's personal growth. So it's person's abilities, capabilities, analytical thinking, comparison, and so on. It's mostly about personal growth. People's intelligence, their skills, like how they change mind. So it's less about when we need to describe something, some events, or someone's appearance, or just, an ideal house, and questions like this. Well, I hope this video can be helpful for you. Be ready to these questions of IELTS listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get more information about IELTS and general English. Thank you. See you soon.